Hello, viewers. It is the Hardy Complex. You've come to the one place with everything and anything you don't want to see, and obviously, as you can tell, I am a big pro wrestling channel. I'm very well known for professional wrestling, being a pro wrestler, talking about pro wrestling, criticizing pro wrestling, praising pro wrestling, but I like a lot more things than just pro wrestling. Sports. I love sports. Obviously, I love professional wrestling. I love creativity. I love music. I love television. I love all forms of entertainment. But one of the biggest things I love aside from pro wrestling, and one of the only things that I think could ever overtake pro wrestling in the future, other than music or acting, I guess, or TV, is football. And obviously, it's the summer. The NFL is not on. For those of you who don't know football, perhaps only know this channel for its wrestling, the NFL, National Football League, whatever you want to call it, the one that has the New England Patriots kill everybody every year, only plays from September to the very beginning of February if you don't count the preseason. And then obviously the offseason is in the summer. But for those that only follow the NFL when it comes down to football, the summer is mostly football free, other than the draft and free agency and mini camps. So for people like me that love football too much to take an off season myself, I tend to find other ways to get my football fix. I like watching the CFL, especially the Edmonton Eskimos. I have my own summer football league on through a video game. It's called the Unitards Football League. You should check it out from time to time. We're about to head out our season at the at the very end of July. But another part of football that I like on the summer, aside from CFL and aside from the Edmonton Eskimos, is the Legends Football League. And whenever I say that, I get a lot of criticism. Oh, you only watch the LFL and women's football because they're in lingerie, or because it's women tackling other women. You get to see women run into each other. You get to see their tits. You get to see their ass. They're in lingerie. They play football like girls. You're just watching girls run into each other. This, that, and all the other bullshit. And I don't really care to acknowledge them. I don't care to acknowledge their opinion because they're very close-minded individuals. I watch the LFL personally for the football itself. And I know that's like somebody saying they read Playboy for the articles, but it's the truth. I watch the LFL because it's one of the only real ways in the summer that I can get my fix on professional football. When it comes down to the LFL, I love the fact that it's got a completely different feel and dynamic to the NFL. My biggest love about the LFL and NFL's contrast and different complexions from fall to summer is the fact that when it comes down to the NFL, I can wait from the end of one NFL season to the very beginning of the next NFL season with, 6, 7 months in between. And I can wait for football that is gridiron, slow paced, methodical, 15 minutes, grueling, excruciating, painstaking time frame gridiron football, and I can wait for that all summer long. But while I watch the NFL, I also wait all fall and winter long to watch fast-paced, very complex, very unique, very unorthodox, but at the same time, very passionate, physical, 7-on-7 tackle football that honestly gives you a different feel than the NFL gives you. So when it comes down to the NFL's or the end of the NFL season, I start up the LFL waiting to go and watch the NFL, which kind of honestly feels like like two different things, the LFL and the NFL. And when I watch the NFL, I'm doing that while I wait for the next LFL season to start. And with me explaining the Legends Football League to you for the past 4.5 minutes, there's another point to this video in which I want to really tackle one team and in specific. I love football so much, I really tend to memorize the teams by the beginning of the season, other than the NFL. Whenever I watch a football league, I tend to want to remember every single team that's in the league, so that way I have an overall thought and opinion on everything that comes to mind. I can name all 32 NFL teams based from AFC East, North, South, West, NFC East, North, South, West, completely, probably within one breath. And with the LFL, I can do the same damn thing. You got the Atlanta Mist, you got the Denver Dream, the Los Angeles Temptation, the Omaha Heart, the Seattle Mist, the Chicago Bliss. I skipped around a little bit, so I guarantee you I probably fumbled around because I went from east to west and east to west, whatever. You get the point. When it comes down to the LFL, though, there's one team in specific, especially this season, in which I've kind of noticed, I don't want to say a lack of worth, because obviously every team in the LFL deserves its worth and has its own different taste and feel. But this season in particular, my eye has been caught by one franchise in particular in which I kind of see as a fan from the outside, not as an executive or as a player or a former player or as a coach. I see as a fan from the outside, I notice things about this franchise that kind of scream, we're not doing something right that the rest of the league is doing right. You know, the Austin Acoustic are doing something that this team is not. The Seattle Mist are doing something that this team is not doing. The Nashville Knights are doing something that this team is not doing. And in many cases, these teams are doing multiple things that this franchise is not doing. And if you read the title on the snippet on YouTube version, then you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't and are tuning into the podcast for the first time today, for starters, hello. But on second, I am talking about the Denver Dream. This is a new LFL franchise. My apologies. That, if you forgive me, I skipped last year's LFL season just because I had a lot of personal issues that were going on in the summer of 2017 that I kind of wanted to deal with before I went into anything, and I just never really picked up on the season. So if I'm mistaken, then my apologies. But last year, I believe, was the first Denver Dream season. It was their inaugural season. This year, I believe, is their second season, and to date, they've gone 0-3 so far. Their next game is in a couple of weeks against the Omaha Heart in Omaha. And from the outside, they stand out from the rest of the teams in the league. For example, the Nashville Knight are in their inaugural season this year, and they are 3-0. I mean, a lot of people will say they're comprised up of a lot of championship caliber players, as they pretty much gutted the entire Seattle Mist championship team. But that's neither here nor there. They're doing something right that the Denver Dream are not doing. And when it comes down to the Denver Dream, as a fan looking in from the outside, I notice some things that the Denver Dream are lacking on, especially three specific things. And I'd like to go over them in short here with you, as I've taken my time describing this. Hell, it's a podcast. I got to kind of burn time. So I'm going to not rank them, but I'm going to go down from my top three things that I see wrong with the Denver Dream that I think with a few notches or a few changes can take them pretty damn far next season, and dare I say it, into Legends Cup qualification category, stipulation, whatever. So for the starters, when it comes down to the first thing that I see wrong with the Denver Dream, it's a confidence factor. Far too often, whenever I see a Denver Dream game this season, I see the same damn thing most of the time, in which at the very beginning of it all, when it's tied at 0-0 or within one or two scores, I see a dip in performance that a lot of people can chalk up to whatever they wish: stamina, mental fortitude, just overall coaching, exhaustion, whatever it may be. I attribute it to confidence. With the Denver Dream, I see one big thing wrong with their confidence factor that tends to hinder them right out of the gate, and that is once they have a deficit of about 1 to 4 scores, whenever they're down anywhere between 6 and 24 points, I see a lack of effort. And I don't want to say a lack of effort because they say, oh, well, this game's lost and done, as if they're just counting it out there. I say a lack of effort in the department of the more that the other team outperforms them, the more drained they are mentally and the less willing to adapt mid-game they are as time continues to wind down. And by the beginning of the fourth quarter, the game is so out of reach that you might as well be trying to reach up from ground level to the 90th floor of a skyscraper. It tends to just completely destroy and neglect the entirety of the team's efforts up to that point. And it really just gives their opposing team a ticket directly to the finish line with very little effort put in. And I'm not going to say that that's something to do with the players or with the staff. I'm not going to say that the players or staff are unmotivated. I'm simply saying with the Denver Dream, their team doesn't tend to stay in the game after it gets just a little out of reach. That confidence factor kind of makes them less narrow-minded in terms of tunnel vision. You know, you could start the game going, all right, we're starting here, we got to get here to win. And it's going to be a straight line, and as soon as they get one or two scores down on them, that straight line turns into a three-way path. Once, you know, you get to the end of the second quarter or the end of the first half, that straight line and that three-way path turns into a path with 11 different dead ends and 13 different ways to the ending. And by the time the fourth quarter is over, that straight line has turned into a path with over 180 winding branches, in which half of them are dead ends and the other half are just places that connect to each other. There tends to be no way out of a hole that they dig themselves in early by the time they get to the late game situation play. One of the other big things that I noticed with the team, mostly the head coaching staff and the offensive mindset, is a lack of proper decision making. We saw it last week, not this past week in their game against Los Angeles, but the week prior in their game against Nashville, where you have Brittany Perea, who is, I mean, not the best quarterback in the LFL, but definitely an LFL caliber quarterback. And, I mean, let's be honest, is a better decision than Mary Towner. And you decide to put Mary Towner in at quarterback, and I'm not trying to body shame or anything like that. I'm not trying to neglect her playing ability, but Brittany Perea, who is very capable of getting out of the pocket and making a hard throw in a league where you have to be able to move, and she gets put aside for Mary Towner, who, as soon as she's out of the pocket, is like a deer in headlights, doesn't really know where to go, and that only leads to a linebacker or a defensive end just getting in her face and bringing her down to the ground immediately. You have the switch from Perea to Towner, which, I mean, was a bad decision by the Dream even before they got into the game, which also then led to Mary Towner and many other Denver Dream athletes being cut later in the week. That is just the surface level of the bad decision making in terms of the organization. When you get to on-field play, the offensive coordinator, I forget what his name is, but he played against Nashville 2 weeks ago, and had Mary Towner, who is not the greatest quarterback and not an LFL caliber quarterback, throw 85 to 90% of the game. And this is a point where this team doesn't have a great rushing offense or mindset to begin with, but has a better rushing mindset or offense and better rushing mindset than passing offense and passing mindset. You don't have a quarterback, yet you're playing 85 to 90% of the snaps as a pass out of, or a pass under center, or a pass out of shotgun formation. That doesn't work, especially in this league, and especially when you don't have a quarterback that can get out of the pocket when she needs to. So that is just horrible decision making on the coach's part. But then we go to the quarterback play, and I saw this with both Mary Towner and Brittany Perea, where when it came down to selecting a receiver, if there was a receiver she threw to, and she was able to make contact with them, or she had them completely capable of picking up a long pass or picking up a nice gain of 19 yards or 20 yards or 21 yards. And this goes for both Perea and Towner. There'd be an overthrow or there'd be an underthrow. It's a lack of proper decision making in terms of this is where my receiver is going to be at this time. The ball needs to be here at this point in time. And I know not everybody can do that, but when you are the starting quarterback on a professional football franchise, you need to be able to do that effectively. And neither woman was able to do that I saw over the past 2 weeks consistently. The other big part is throwing it into horrible coverage. Mary Towner, I think 2 or 3 times, I read a zone pattern from that Nashville was playing with, and I could kind of sense exactly where the receivers needed to be. And there would always be 1 or 2 receivers that had some breathing room that could have came down with a catch if they were given the opportunity. And rather than find those receivers in a specific pocket or in a specific kind of motion frame, she threw to a woman in double coverage, or threw to a woman that, if the defender was 5 feet off of her, could have been in triple coverage. That is not something that you need to have in terms of a winning strategy. And Perea did the same thing, except what I saw more of in the not the Omaha game, I apologize, in the Los Angeles game this past Friday night, was a lack of an ability to be able to properly throw to a woman in coverage, even if they had the chance to make the catch. The lack of the ability to hit them on target, to be able to at least give them an opportunity to make the catch. And all of that, the on-field decision-making by the quarterbacks, the on-field playmaking by the coordinators, and hell, even down to the roster and depth chart decisions that the coaching staff makes, just is one complete fucking formula to a horrible game plan or decision-making plan for victory. This is not, it wasn't something, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time kind of describing this. It's not something that you would expect from a professional football franchise. And that's really hindered the Denver Dream, especially over the past 2 weeks. And then we'll get down to the final the final point, because I think we're at 20 minutes into the podcast already. And the biggest problem that I have is the lack of true leadership and the lack of having a field general playing at quarterback, playing. When it comes down to true leadership, playing any side of the ball and any position, but especially on quarterback, having this lack of a true field general. And that's a big point for this season. I guarantee you, with the training and the proper pull-through to really establish her come next season as the quarterback for the franchise, Brittany Perea will be much better next year in that position. This is one of her big test years in terms of the Denver Dream roster. But I think come next year, she will be extremely ready to lead this franchise, and I think she'll be a much better field general. But at the moment, when it comes down to the LFL, if I'm the coach for the Denver Dream and I'm putting a quarterback in there to march me down the field, 38, 40 yards, and into the end zone on a game-saving drive, I'll tell you, I'm taking Michelle Angel, I'm taking KK Matheny, I'm taking Dakota Hughes, hell, I'm taking Tashay Winfrey over Brittany Perea 9 times out of 10. When it comes down to this season, the biggest problem that I saw with the offense is that lack of true leadership, from the quarterback side of the play. The guys that you see succeed in terms of getting their side of the ball to work in a unified manner are the guys that have the leadership qualities to be able to bring them together and bring them to one to get them on the same page. With these girls, it's a case where if they want to succeed, you need to have somebody to really piece together that team. I tell you this much, and I sing Michelle Angel's praises every fucking day. I mean, a big part is because I fucking crush over her harder than a fucking bulldozer over a wooden wall. But the other part is because she is such a natural born leader in terms of the way she holds herself on field. She's a quarterback for the Seattle Mist, and it gets to a point where, or if it gets to the point where the defensive side of the ball for the Mist is not working properly, they send her out. They send their starting quarterback out to play defense and hold them together. The past game against Atlanta in Showware, or I believe it was in Showware, 2 weeks ago, Michelle Angel was playing fantastic football on the offensive side of the ball at quarterback, and then I think midway through the third quarter, she was sent out to play the defensive side of the ball. She's obviously an all-star safety, but you obviously don't put out your quarterback on the defensive side of the ball unless it's necessary. And she was able to pull her offense together at quarterback, but she was also out there playing defense at safety, pulling her defense together and getting them to make stops. And immediately when she started going out there on the defensive side of the ball, an immediate impact was made. That is the kind of player you need to have in terms of pulling your team together. That whole confidence thing I talked about at the beginning of this whole rant, if you want to call it that, that is changed with one simple thing, and that is having that true leader to bring everyone together and say, listen, we may be down by what, 21, 22, 23, 24, upwards of 38 points, but it's still not the end of the game. There's still time left on the clock. Whether we win or not, whether it's possible to even win or not, doesn't matter. The clock is not at double zeros. The clock is not at triple zeros. The clock is not at quadruple zeros. We play until the clock is at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, whatever the hell. Unless there's all zeros on that clock, we continue to play. That is what you have to have as your leader. That is what you have to break that spell of lack of confidence. That is what you need to have in a football team in order to succeed, in order to pull that side of the ball, and in order to pull that side of the team or the entire team together. That's what you need to have. Michelle Angel is that leader. KK Matheny is that leader for Nashville. Dakota Hughes is that leader for Atlanta. Whenever you look at a successful football franchise, you see that leader, and that leader is the one that keeps them playing until there's no time left in the game. There's no time left to continue playing. Tom Brady has been that way with the Patriots for the past 12 years. Joe Montana was that way with the 49ers, and hell, even at the latter stages of his career with the Kansas City Chiefs. Until he was done, he kept fighting. Until Tom Brady is done, he will keep fighting. That is what you need to have in order to have a successful side of the ball. And Denver lacks that at the moment. And Denver also lacks that proper field general. I'm not saying that Brittany Perea is not going to end up being that field general 1-2 years down the line, next season or the season after. But this season, she is not the person I would rather have compared to every other LFL quarterback, or at least 95% of the LFL quarterbacks. She is not the person I am taking with a minute and 15 seconds left to drive me that, 45 to 50 yards down the field for an end zone? No, I'm down by 6 points. I'm not taking Brittany Perea to drive me downfield. I'm taking Michelle Angel. I'm taking KK Matheny. I'm taking Dakota Hughes. I'm taking Tashay Winfrey. I'm taking whomever you can throw at me that has the experience to be able to bring me down the field when it matters most. And Denver does not have that. And in my opinion, that is the biggest thing that has been holding them back this season. Confidence can be one of them. Decision-making can be another. But when it comes down to it, the lack of true leadership really hurts them. And on the offensive side of the ball, the side of the ball that, in my opinion, makes or breaks your chances at winning a game. Not makes or breaks your opportunity at winning a game, but make or breaks your chance at winning the game, you need to have that person you can trust to take you down the field. And this year, Denver does not have that. And overall, those three things are the perfect formula for failure. And that is what the Denver Dream has seen this season. So we're obviously going to see how that picks up next season. But for the moment, I'm not holding out hope for this Dream season, and I guess you shouldn't either. So let's get into the opening topic of the podcast, shall we?